There was once a kingdom of gold and sorrow, Zamara, where the sun shone bright upon palaces built from the sweat of the broken. Its towers pierced the sky, yet the streets below were paved with tears. From a distance, Zamara looked like heaven. White marble, shining domes, the scent of burning incense and rare spices. But step closer, and you would hear the truth. The rattling of chains, the crack of whips, and the quiet prayers of those who had no names. They called it the City of Chains, where freedom was a dream only the wind dared to whisper. The air is thick, a mix of sweat, spice, and despair. Men shout prices. Women bow their heads. Children hide behind baskets of fruit, afraid to meet a master's eyes. Every voice in the market fights to be heard. Sellers, guards, traders, all blending into one storm of noise. And yet, beneath it all, there is another sound. A faint hum, soft, fragile, almost human. The crowd doesn't notice at first. It's too small, too pure to belong here. But the sound grows, rising gently like smoke through the air. It's not a cry for help, not even a song of hope. It's something else, something sacred. The melody floats through the chaos, weaving between cries and footsteps, and for one strange moment, the market pauses. Even the wind stops moving. Even the birds go silent. Even the gods, they say, paused to listen. High above the noise and suffering, the palace gleams like a crown of fire. Soldiers march in perfect rhythm. Servants bow low, and there, seated on a throne carved from obsidian and gold, sits King Azarel. He is strong, dressed in silver armor and crowned with gems, yet behind his proud posture his eyes are hollow. Haunted, the weight of 1,000 victories has left him sleepless. He turns his head slightly, as if hearing something faint and far away. A sound carried by the wind. A woman's voice. Soft. Distant. Impossible. Narrator. V.O. Morning comes to Zamara not with peace, but with commands. The sound of boots, whips, and carts fills the streets before the sun can touch the rooftops. In this world of gold and cruelty, every sunrise means another day of servitude. The market of 1,000 tongues stirs to life. Traders shout prices. Slaves carry baskets of fruit, water, and stones under the eyes of guards. Dust rises with every step, painting the air brown. Among them walks Nala, a young black girl, thin but steady, no older than 17. Her bare feet are cracked, her hands rough from endless labor, yet her face holds something the others have lost. Calm. She keeps her eyes lowered, never speaking, never crying. She moves with quiet grace, as if carrying not only the weight of water jars, but the weight of something unseen. Memory. Her eyes catch a reflection in a puddle. The morning sun bending in ripples. For a brief moment, she sees not herself, but the echo of a woman's smile. Her mother's smile. The image fades with the passing of a cart. Her shoulders stiffen. She keeps walking, a dusty plain. Fire in the distance. Little Nala clings to her mother's dress as soldiers drag people away. Mother, softly, to Nala. Listen to me, my heart. Your voice will open gates no key can. Promise me, you will never stop singing, little Nala. But, Mama, I'm scared, Mother. That's when you must sing the loudest. The soldiers pull her away. The world goes silent. Nala kneels, scrubbing the stone floor near a spice stall. Her fingers move automatically. Scrape, rinse, scrub, repeat. Around her, the shouts of merchants blend into a dull hum. A guard passes by, kicking at a beggar. A merchant laughs, counting coins. The smell of roasted meat and sweat fills the air. Nala hums, so softly that only she can hear it. It's a melody without words, trembling like a candle flame in the wind. Her lips barely move, her eyes stay down. Yet, somehow, the tune seems to linger, fragile but alive. No one notices the hum of a slave girl. In Zamara, silence is safer than truth. But silence cannot hold back destiny forever. The sun climbs higher. The air grows hotter. Nala carries water from the well, the jar heavy against her back. Children run past her, laughing. The free children of merchants. One bumps into her, spilling half the jar. The merchant's wife slaps Nala across the face. Merchant's wife. Useless girl! Do you think water is free? Nala bows her head, saying nothing. A faint red mark blooms across her cheek. She picks up the jar and walks away. The woman scoffs and turns, not noticing the tears mixing with the water dripping from Nala's jar. When night begins to fall, the market quiets. The masters go home. The slaves gather scraps of food, whispering to one another in fear of guards. Nala sits alone near the broken fountain, clutching a piece of bread. The air cools, the moon rises, and for the first time all day, she is unobserved. She closes her eyes. The world around her fades. And she begins to sing. It's not loud, not proud. It's a song of memory. Of her mother. Of green fields before the war. Of freedom she barely remembers. Her voice trembles, then steadies. Gentle, warm, like a hand reaching out through darkness. The song carries softly through the night air, weaving through empty stalls and across the cobblestones. One by one, a few slaves nearby lift their heads. They do not speak, they just listen. For the first time in years, their hearts feel something close to peace. A man in fine robes, half hidden under a hood, pauses mid-step. He's not from the market. His sandals are too clean. His scent too rich. This is a royal emissary, sent from the palace to check trade taxes. He hears Nala's song. His expression freezes. The noise of the market seems to fade away around him. He turns toward the direction of the melody, searching for its source. But when he reaches the fountain, the girl is gone. All that remains is the echo of her song floating in the air, like a whisper from another world. And so, in a city that had forgotten mercy, one girl's song slipped through the cracks. A melody born in chains found its way toward a palace of stone. The wind carried it, softly, patiently, toward the ear of a king who feared silence. His fingers tighten on the throne's armrest. Something inside him stirs. Something he thought had died long ago. And so it began, not with a battle, not with a crown, but with a song. In the highest chambers of Zamara, silence had become a curse. It wrapped itself around the golden walls, creeping into every hall of the palace. A silence that not even music or laughter could fill, and at the center of it sat a man who had everything. Except peace. The moonlight spills across the polished floors of King Azarel's chamber. The room is vast. Marble pillars, silk curtains, golden lamps. Yet it feels empty, like a tomb dressed in luxury. King Azarel stands by the balcony, staring at the dark city below. His armor lies on the floor beside him, stained with dust from another conquered land. His face, though proud and regal, carries exhaustion. Deep lines beneath his eyes, a weariness that no crown can hide. A single candle flickers near his hand. Its flame bends in the night air, like a whisper trying to reach him. A voice, faint, distant, calls his name. It's soft, like a lullaby, but it shakes his soul. Voice, gentle, echoing. Kneel before the light, Azarel. He gasps and looks around, but there is nothing, only endless white light. The voice repeats, closer this time, filled with warmth and sorrow. Voice, do you remember what mercy sounds like? The king falls to his knees, trembling. Then darkness swallows him whole. Azarel wakes abruptly, sweat running down his face. He grips the edges of his bed, as if holding on to the world itself. A servant rushes in, bowing deeply. Servant, my king, are you unwell? Azarel raises a hand, his voice calm but cold. Azarel, leave me, and send for the high priest. The servant bows again and exits. The king sits in silence, breathing heavily. The echo of the dream lingers. Incense burns. The high priest, robed in crimson and gold, kneels before the altar. Azarel stands at the doorway, watching the flames dance. Azarel, I hear a voice in my sleep, a woman's voice. It tells me to kneel. What does it mean? The priest lowers his head. High priest, perhaps the gods are warning you, Majesty. You have conquered lands, defied oaths. Even the heavens grow restless. Azarel, coldly. You think I fear the heavens? High priest, you fear silence, my king. That is where the gods speak most clearly. The king says nothing. The priest's words echo like a blade drawn in the dark. Azarel walks down the corridor. The walls are lined with paintings of his victories, armies kneeling before him, cities burning behind his banners. He pauses before one painting, himself on a horse, sword raised, 1,000 faces bowing below. But in his eyes, even in the painting, there is loneliness. He touches the painted crown, then turns away. The city below glows under the dying sun. From here, the market of Thousand Tongues looks like a maze of gold and dust. An emissary kneels before him. Emissary, my king, I bring strange news from the market. They say a slave girl sang yesterday, and the crowd stopped moving. Even the birds, they say, went still. Azarel's eyes narrow. Azarel, a slave girl? Emissary, yes, Majesty. I did not see her face, only her voice. It was, hesitates. It was not of this world. Azarel turns away, looking toward the market in the distance. His jaw tightens. Azarel, voices do not move the heavens. Armies do, but his tone trembles. The words don't convince even him. As the emissary bows and departs, the king lingers. He stares at the horizon, where the faint echo of a melody seems to float on the wind. Faint, but unmistakable. His eyes widen slightly. He whispers to himself, almost afraid of the thought, Azarel, softly. That voice, it was in my dream. The king who feared silence had begun to listen, and in that single fragile moment, fate began to turn, not with a sword, but with a song. The sun rises over Zamara, spilling gold across a sea of color and chaos. The market of Thousand Tongues awakens. Vendors shouting prices, drums beating, goats bleating, traders arguing in 10 different dialects. The air smells of spices, dust, and heat. It is a world alive, pulsing, loud. Among the noise, a fragile figure moves quietly through the crowd. Ameira, the slave girl, barefoot, carrying a basket of clay cups, her wrists marked with the faint burn of chains. Her eyes, deep, watchful, filled with stories no one dares to ask about. She speaks little, works much, and every evening she hums softly under her breath, never louder than a whisper, for fear that someone might hear. Ameira had learned that her voice was a danger, not to her, but to those who listened. Long ago her mother had sung the same way, until a nobleman called it witchcraft, and she was taken away in the night. Since then, Ameira's songs lived only inside her chest, pressed down by fear. A dust storm threatens at the edge of the horizon. Merchants hurry to tie down tents. In the chaos, Ameira drops her basket. Clay cups shatter across the stone floor. The stall owner, a heavy-set man with cruel eyes, storms over. Stall owner. "Stupid girl! You'll pay for that." He raises his hand. The crowd goes silent. Ameira flinches but doesn't run. Instead, she closes her eyes. Something inside her, small, buried, aching, finally breaks free. And then she sings. Her voice rises, soft at first, trembling, but it grows, note by note, like dawn breaking open the dark. A melody older than language itself, woven with pain, hope, and longing. The stall owner freezes. His arm lowers, his mouth slightly open. The crowd stops moving. Children stare. Merchants drop their coins. Even the wind, for a moment, forgets to blow. Birds that had been circling overhead fold their wings and perch quietly. Camels kneel. A bell that was about to chime doesn't finish its ring. The market of thousand tongues falls utterly silent. Tears slide down her cheeks as she sings. Not from fear, but release. Every word vibrates with truth. A voice carrying the grief of generations, the ache of those who were never allowed to be heard. Her song tells of lost mothers, vanished names, the dream of freedom beyond walls. Her voice doesn't plead, it commands, and the sound seems to move the very air around her, shimmering like heat on stone. No one in Zamara had ever heard silence this deep. It was not the silence of peace, but of awe, as if the entire city had stopped breathing to remember what it had forgotten. The sound of a human soul unchained. The dust storm halts at the city's edge, swirling, waiting, as if listening too. An old woman kneels, whispering a prayer. A soldier drops his spear, tears glinting in his beard. Even the guards who serve the palace hesitate, their eyes wide with something like fear. And far away, high in his balcony, King Azarel feels it. Azarel grips the stone railing, breath caught in his chest. The song reaches him through distance and wind, faint but unmistakable. It feels like the same voice from his dream. He closes his eyes, overwhelmed. For a moment, he forgets to be king. Azarel, whisper, the voice of mercy. A single tear cuts through the dust on his face. Ameira finishes the last note, soft, trembling, then silence again. True silence, and in that stillness, a miracle. The broken clay cups on the ground, no longer broken, every piece fused back together, shining faintly as if kissed by light. The crowd gasps. Someone whispers, "She's been touched by the gods." Ameira opens her eyes, startled, breathless, and sees the faces around her. Some bow, others weep. The stall owner kneels. Stall owner, shaken whisper, "Forgive me." But Ameira steps back, frightened. The guards are coming, their spears glinting under the sun. In the space of a single song, a slave had become a legend, and a kingdom had begun to tremble. For the voice that stopped the market was not meant for the crowd. It was meant for the king. The city glows beneath a bruised sky, gold fading into purple. King Azarel stands motionless, hands gripping the marble railing. Below, the market of thousand tongues lies in eerie quiet. Even from here, the air hums faintly, the echo of her song still hanging between the walls of the kingdom. Narrator, V.O. For the first time in 10 years, the mighty king of Zamara felt small, a single man in a vast, listening world. Azarel strides through the corridor, his cloak trailing behind him like a storm cloud. Guards and servants bow low, but none dare meet his eyes. He stops before the captain of his guard. Azarel, low, controlled. Find the girl who sang in the market. Captain, hesitant. There are many girls, Majesty. Azarel's voice sharpens, like steel drawn from its sheath. Azarel. You'll know her when you hear the silence she leaves behind. The captain bows deeply. Torches flicker against the stone. The once bustling market now lies still, as if afraid to wake from a dream. Soldiers move cautiously through the narrow lanes, their boots echoing against empty stalls. People watch from doorways, some whispering prayers, others hiding in fear. A woman selling herbs points silently down an alley, her voice trembling. She went that way, carrying nothing but her song. Ameira sits beside an old fountain, moonlight rippling across her skin. Her hands tremble, her throat aches. She has been running, but not from soldiers, from what she doesn't understand. She touches her neck, as if the song still vibrates there. Ameira whispers, "Why did you give me this voice? Only to make them afraid?" A shadow moves. She tenses. It's the captain of the guard, flanked by 2 soldiers. Captain, slave girl, you are summoned by the King of Zamara. Ameira looks up slowly, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and strange calm. Ameira. The king? Captain. At once! The massive gates of the royal compound open with a low groan. Ameira, barefoot and silent, steps through. Her chain is gone, but the guard's gaze is its own kind of shackle. They walk her past pools of still water and statues of gods with broken faces. Every echo of her footsteps feels louder than thunder. The room is vast, lit by 1,000 candles. The king sits on his throne, still unreadable. The golden lions carved beside him gleam in the firelight. The guards kneel and announce her name. Captain. Your Majesty. The girl from the market. Azarel nods. The guards step aside. Ameira walks forward, her head bowed. The silence stretches. Long. Unbearable. Finally, Azarel speaks. Azarel, quietly. Look at me. She hesitates, then lifts her gaze. Their eyes meet. Something unspoken passes between them. Recognition, disbelief, something neither can name. Azarel. That song. It reached even my palace walls. Tell me, what god do you serve? Ameira. None, my king. Only truth. Azarel's brow furrows. Azarel. Truth. Ameira. It lives in every breath, even those we try to silence. Her words strike him deeper than he expects. He leans forward slightly. Azarel, softly. Do you know what your voice did? Ameira. I sang to survive, not to be heard. Azarel stands. His armor glints under the candlelight. He circles her slowly, studying, testing, drawn. Azarel. You stopped a market. You stilled my city. You even stilled me. Do you know what power that is? Ameira. It is not mine to keep. Something in his face shifts, pride crumbling into awe. For the first time in years, he does not feel like a ruler speaking to a slave. Azarel, whispering, You remind me of mercy. And I had forgotten her name. Ameira lowers her eyes, trembling. Ameira. Then remember her majesty, not for me, but for those who cannot sing. A heavy silence falls. Outside, thunder rolls in the distance. In that moment, the king who once silenced nations found himself disarmed. Not by war, not by gods, but by the fragile courage of a single human voice. And though he did not yet know it, The sound of that voice would soon unravel his crown, his kingdom, and his heart. As Ameira is escorted to her quarters, raindrops begin to fall, soft, hesitant. The first rain Zamara has seen in months. From his balcony, Azarel watches her disappear into the shadows. His hand tightens on the railing, the echo of her words haunting him. Azarel, to himself. Truth lives in every breath. He closes his eyes. The rain falls harder, washing over the city like the first act of mercy. Mist curls around the pillars. The sound of training soldiers echoes, steel clashing, boots thudding. But beyond the noise, another sound rises, soft, steady, and haunting. Ameira's voice. She stands near a fountain, singing quietly to herself while sweeping the stones. Her voice raps through the air like morning light breaking fog. Even the guards training nearby slow their blades, listening, almost reverent. Once, the palace of Zamara knew only the rhythm of marching boots. Now, even the walls seem to hum with a new heartbeat. Hers. King Azarel sits in council with his priests and generals. Golden maps cover the table, inked with borders, blood, and conquest. But Azarel's attention drifts, his mind elsewhere. High Priest. Majesty, the harvest fails. The people murmur. They say the gods grow restless. Azarel, absent-mindedly. Do they? Or do they simply tire of silence? The priests exchange nervous looks. General. Your Majesty. The people whisper of the girl. Some call her a saint. Others, a curse. Azarel's jaw tightens. Azarel. They call her human. That is enough. The high priest leans forward, voice heavy with warning. High Priest. She sings words not of Zamara, but of the old ways, the forbidden hymns. The gods of stone will not forgive that. Azarel, coldly. Then perhaps it is not the gods we need to fear, but what we've become worshipping them. The council falls silent. None dare speak further. Ameira kneels beside a patch of dying flowers. She hums softly, touching each stem. The leaves seem to tremble. Not in fear, but in response. Azarel approaches quietly behind her. For once, he wears no crown, no armor, only a plain robe. Azarel, you make even the garden listen. Ameira looks up, startled, then smiles, faintly, Ameira. It listens because it remembers the sound of rain. Azarel kneels beside her. Azarel. And you. What do you remember? Her eyes cloud with pain. Ameira. Chains. Fire. My mother's voice fading before mine began. A long pause. The wind sighs through the trees. Azarel, softly. I killed 1,000 mothers to build this kingdom. Ameira. Then sing for them. He laughs bitterly. Azarel. A king does not sing. Girl. She looks at him steadily. Ameira. Then perhaps that is why your kingdom does not breathe. The candles burn low. Azarel sits alone, sword laid across his knees. The steel gleams, clean, sharp, heartless. There were two voices in him now. One forged by war, the other softened by song. And for the first time, he did not know which to follow. He hears her voice again, faint, distant, drifting through the palace halls. He closes his eyes, gripping the sword tighter. Azarel to himself. If her song is peace, then what am I? The sword slips from his grasp and hits the floor with a hollow clang. The high priest kneels before the altar, whispering to the stone idols. Behind him, robed figures gather, faces hard with fear. High Priest. The king has forgotten the gods. He bends to a slave's tune. If we do not act, the kingdom will fall to ruin, and to her. The priests bow their heads. A plan begins to form in the shadows, dark, inevitable. Ameira stands by the railing, the moonlight bathing her face. Her voice rises softly, a lullaby, tender and sorrowful. Behind her, Azarel steps into the light. He listens without a word. When the song ends, she turns to him. Azarel, quietly. Every time you sing, I remember what it means to be alive, and every time, I fear what it might cost. Ameira. All truth costs something, Majesty. He takes a slow breath, his voice shaking. Azarel. And if the cost is you? She steps closer, eyes steady. Ameira. Then let your sword choose between us. The crown you built with fear, or the song that could set you free. A storm wind sweeps across the balcony, tossing her hair like dark silk. Azarel stares at her, torn between two worlds. That night, the king of Zamara stood at the edge of his own soul, one hand reaching for the blade, the other for the song. He could not yet see which one would draw blood first. The sun rises red. From the shadows near the temple, hooded figures watch the king and his nightingale from afar. Their whispers curl like smoke. High Priest, V.O. A song may soothe the heart of a king, but a sword shall silence it forever. The screen fades to black as the faint echo of Ameira's song lingers. Beautiful, fragile, doomed. The palace of Zamara sleeps beneath a restless sky. Moonlight drips through the marble corridors, cold and pale. But shadows move where light dares not. Robed figures gliding silently, carrying purpose darker than the night itself. There are nights when kingdoms fall without a single blade drawn. Nights when whispers are sharper than swords. Ameira sleeps beside the window, her head resting on folded arms. Her breath is calm, her face soft. Peace found in a place that once knew only chains. Suddenly, the door bursts open. Torches flood the room with firelight. High Priest, coldly. Seize her! Two guards rush forward. Ameira wakes, startled, as rough hands drag her to her feet. Ameira, crying out, "What is this? Where are you taking me?" High Priest, to face judgment for your blasphemy. You have sung words forbidden by the gods. Ameira, I sang only truth. High Priest, with venom. Truth does not belong to slaves. They throw her before the altar. Chains around her wrists once again. The sacred fire burns high, casting monstrous shapes upon the stone idols. High Priest, you bewitched the king. You poisoned his heart with heresy. You have awoken spirits long buried. Ameira looks up, her voice steady despite her fear. Ameira, if my song woke anything, it was your silence. The priest steps closer, fury twisting his face. High Priest. Silence is obedience, child, and obedience keeps order. Ameira, softly. No, it keeps chains. He raises his staff and strikes her across the face. Blood traces the corner of her lip. But she does not cry out. Azarel wakes with a start. Sweat on his brow, heart pounding. He doesn't know why, only that the night feels wrong. He calls for his guards. No one answers. A chill creeps through him. He steps out onto the balcony and hears it. A faint echo carried on the wind. Chains, Azarel, whisper. No. The priests chant as they prepare the sacred decree of execution. Ameira kneels, eyes closed, whispering under her breath. Ameira. Mother, if you can hear me, I am not afraid. The heavy temple doors slam open. Azarel storms in, his cloak billowing, guards at his back. Azarel, furious. What madness is this? High priest, bowing but defiant. Justice, my king. The gods demand her death, Azarel. The gods demand peace, not blood. High priest, rising. Then ask them yourself, Majesty, for even a king must bow before them. He thrusts a scroll toward Azarel, the written decree sealed with divine wax. The king's eyes darken as he reads. Then his hand trembles. He drops the scroll. Azarel, hoarse. You have bound even me in these chains. The high priest smiles faintly. High priest, at dawn, the slave dies. The gods will be appeased, and the king will remember his place. Ameira sits on the cold floor, chains biting into her wrists. The flicker of torchlight dances across her face. The door creaks open. Azarel enters quietly. He looks broken, pale, older than before. Ameira, gently. You came. Azarel, choked. I tried to stop them, but the temple holds more power than the crown. He kneels beside her, taking her bound hands in his. Tears shine in his eyes. Azarel, I was a king of swords and war, yet I cannot save one girl. Ameira, smiling faintly. Then do not try to save me, Majesty. Remember me, and save them. Azarel, don't speak of dying. Ameira, death cannot silence a song born of truth. She leans forward, whispering, her voice barely a breath. Ameira, when they take me to the square, listen, you'll know what to do. He closes his eyes, trembling. Azarel, forgive me. She places her chained hands on his heart. Ameira, you already are. Before dawn, the guards came again. The girl walked between them with quiet grace, as if she carried light instead of chains. And the king remained behind in the dark, kneeling for the first time in his life, not as a ruler, but as a man who had just lost the only truth he had ever known. The first light of morning creeps over Zamara. Mist clings to the marble towers. The city, once loud, proud, and golden, stands in a hush of mourning. The execution platform rises in the center of the square, draped with crimson banners. Hundreds gather, nobles, soldiers, slaves, all waiting, not speaking. Even the birds are silent. In every kingdom, there comes a dawn that divides history in two, before and after. For Zamara, that dawn was this one. King Azarel stands alone. His crown sits heavy in his hands. He has not slept. His eyes are rimmed with red, his soul torn between throne and truth. A distant sound of drums begins, slow, steady, cruel. He flinches. Azarel, whisper, no, not like this. He turns and storms out. Ameira walks between guards. Chains clink softly with each step, yet her head remains high. She wears a simple white dress, once given to her by the queen's handmaidens. Now, it looks like a shroud of peace. Children whisper her name as she passes. The girl who made the king weep. The song spirit. The high priest waits by the platform, face like stone. High priest to the crowd. The gods demand silence. The slave has broken their law. Today her voice will trouble the world no more. He signals to the executioner. A hush falls so deep it feels like the earth itself is listening. Ameira stands on the platform. The rising sun touches her face. She closes her eyes. But before the blade could fall, the girl lifted her face to heaven, and the wind seemed to stop just to hear her breathe. Ameira begins to sing. Her voice is soft, fragile as glass at first. Then it swells, deep, resonant, filled with a power no chains can hold. It is not a song of sorrow, but of release, a hymn that speaks to the heart of every person standing there, noble or slave. The sound rolls through the square like thunder, and then something changes. The chains on the slave's wrists begin to shimmer, then crumble into dust. The banners of the temple tear themselves free from the poles. The marble beneath the king's feet cracks open with light. All of Zamara glows faintly, as if the sun itself had descended to listen. Azarel bursts into the crowd, shoving past guards. He looks up and sees her, Ameira, radiant in the morning light, her eyes full of peace. She sees him too. Their gazes lock. No words needed. And as she holds the final note, he drops to his knees. Azarel, shouting through tears, "Stop this! In the name of every god, stop!" But the executioner's blade falls, and just as it does, a burst of sound and light erupts from Ameira. The song explodes outward, shaking the city to its bones. Statues shatter. The temple's pillars crack. Every chain in the kingdom, in homes, dungeons, and fields, breaks apart. Silence. The light fades. Dust settles. Ameira's body lies still. But her face, peaceful, smiling, Azarel stumbles to her side. He gathers her in his arms, holding her close as the crowd kneels around them. Azarel, whisper breaking, "You freed them. And me." And there, in the square of a city built on chains, a king finally bowed, not to gods of stone, but to the truth in a slave girl's song. Slaves embrace one another, touching their freed wrists in disbelief. Nobles lower their heads in shame and awe. The high priest stares at the broken altar, speechless. And above it all, the wind carries the faint echo of her voice, a melody woven into the air itself. Tears streak through the dust on his face. He looks to the sky. Azarel. May the heavens remember her name. Ameira, voice of the free. A beam of sunlight pierces the clouds, and for just a moment, the air shimmers with gold dust, like the breath of the gods themselves, bowing in silence. They say her song never ended. It still lingers in the wind that sweeps the streets of Zamara. A whisper reminding the living. Freedom is not given by kings. It is sung by those who remember they were born free. The city that once woke to the sound of chains now wakes to songs. Soft human songs, mothers humming to their children, workers calling out to one another as they lift the day's burdens freely. The streets that once bled are now filled with color, murals painted on walls, markets bursting with laughter, children running through fountains where gallows once stood. The golden palace still gleams above, but its gates are open. Years passed, and the memory of the song became the heart of the kingdom itself. No longer a place of masters and slaves, Zamara learned to call itself by a new name, the Kingdom of the Free. Where soldiers once marched, flowers now bloom. A great tree stands at the center, grown from the soil where Ameira fell. Its branches stretch like open arms, and beneath it sits Azarel, older now, his hair silver, his eyes still weary yet gentler. He wears no crown, only a simple robe. He writes in a journal resting on his knee, Azarel, writing softly. The crown was a prison heavier than any chain. She broke both, the chains I wore on others and the ones I wore within myself. He pauses, looking up as the wind moves through the tree, a faint melody humming through its leaves. He closes his eyes, listening. A hint of a smile crosses his face. A crowd gathers each year beneath the great tree. There is no marble statue, only a circle of stones engraved with the words, The voice of the free shall never fade. Children place flowers there. Elders tell her story, and every year, at dawn, they sing the song of Ameira, the same melody that once broke chains. But no one sings it alone. Hundreds of voices rise together, rich, imperfect, human, filling the air with harmony. Once her song belonged to sorrow. Now it belongs to everyone. Inside the library, young scribes record the history of Zamara. Books line the walls, not of conquest, but of compassion, justice, and art. One page bears a simple portrait, a girl with calm eyes and braids, drawn from memory. Beneath it, Ameira of the market, the girl whose voice freed a king. Beyond the city walls, new villages rise. Men and women work the fields together, sharing the harvest equally. Children chase each other between rows of golden grain, their laughter echoing across the land. And somewhere, in the rhythm of wind through the crops, the faintest hum can still be heard. Azarel stands beneath the stars. He gazes out over the city, now glowing with lanterns instead of torches. He kneels, resting his hand over his heart. Azarel, quietly. You were right, Ameira. The song was never yours alone. He looks toward the temple ruins in the distance, now rebuilt as a house of voices, where no gods are worshipped, but truth itself. Children sing within it, songs of love, of work, of freedom. The wind rises again, petals lift into the air like sparks. For a heartbeat, the city hums, the same note that once silenced the world, and in that harmony, her voice seems to return. Not from above, but from within every heart that remembers. They say she never truly died, that the breath of every singer, the courage of every child who dares to speak truth, is her spirit reborn. And though kings will rise and fall again, there will always be one song that no power can silence. Leaves whisper like gentle music. In the breeze, we hear her final echo, a voice soft but eternal saying, "Let them sing. Let them all be free."